Welcome back all. Thank you, as ever, for continuing to get in touch, sharing your thoughts and opinions. It's essential for me to make these videos on a weekly basis. You are instrumental in these episodes that come out every Tuesday, so thank you so much. The best place to do so, comment section below with your thoughts and opinions, and if you have a longer story, maybe with some pictures, you can email hi@tuesday@dobbs.com. I'm going to start with a couple of articles in the news at the moment. Number one, Can-Am, I think it's Canadian company, they have two brand new motorbikes. Interesting thing, both of them are electric. The adventure style bike is called the Origin, and that in the UK is £15,400. Fully electric, and the range is 115 kilometers combined. Put that into miles, that is 71 miles of range. It doesn't bring me any joy to say this, but an adventure bike with a range of 71 miles, it doesn't make any sense. This will be one of the biggest sales flops of the year, and I hate saying that. There's no joy here, me saying that, but you cannot have an adventure bike with a 71-mile range, because for a bike, once you get down to the last 30 miles, you're looking for fuel. And that means that you only have 40 miles of relative stress-free riding. It just means you will never, ever get anywhere. What is also slightly more worrying is that I think with electric bikes, number one, they're not workable. Electric motorbikes don't work apart from only city commuting, nothing else apart from that, because the range just doesn't make sense apart from a city mode of transport. And secondly, the Harley Davidson Livewire came out 5 years ago, and that has a larger range than this Can-Am, meaning we are regressing with what electric motorcycles can do in terms of range. It doesn't work. There is no workable solution from the electric point of view. I truly believe that for anything other than short-range city rides. It's a shame, but that will not work. Moving on, another American brand, Harley Davidson. Again, I'm starting only with depressing news at the moment. Although Can-Am, actually, that really should be quite positive. I just don't see it working. But on to Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson Lind, that's a company that has a number of Harley Davidson dealerships in the UK. They've just closed their Watford branch and they're about to close their Reading branch. I brought you news a few weeks ago about a couple of other Harley Davidson dealerships closing nearer to me, and the fact that two more are closing. Take a listen to this from MSN. In a statement, a spokesman for the Lind Group said, "We wish to share the important news that Lind has decided to consolidate our Harley Davidson business." That's just business speak for closing down because sales are poor. As a result, Watford Harley Davidson will close on the 28th of September, and Reading Harley Davidson has entered a period of consultation with a likely closure also dated 28th of September. This is catastrophic for Harley Davidson. Mind-blowingly gigantic. The number of Harley Davidson dealerships that are closing. I'm really, really worried for Harley Davidson. I know a lot of people say, look, it's such a massive brand, of course it will be okay. But massive brands come and go. Things are seriously worrying for Harley Davidson now. I would be fascinated to be a fly on the wall in the meetings of the powers that be in head office, because this is a company that needs some kind of turnaround extremely quickly. Moving on now to, is it more pleasant news? Yes it is. US again, Brian, this is really good. Freddie just wanted to share a website/business in the UK called Iconic Motorbikes out of California. They host online auctions on bikes they receive from all over the world. And you'll find some of the most unique and rare bikes along with some everyday options too. I just thought you'd really enjoy checking it out because it really is a petrol head enthusiast's dream of bucket list bikes. Prices range from very affordable to I must own a yacht, but regardless, it's fun to see the weekly offerings and just dream. Enjoy, Brian, California. Brian, let's take a look. Iconic motorbike auctions. So the first thing up here, well, it really is unique, isn't it? 1980 Honda Z50R. So little monkey bike there. But then second on the list, fascinatingly, this is a 2023 Triumph Speed Triple Bond Edition. James Bond Edition, 1 year old, celebrating 60 years. But all of these are on auction, every single bike. So the first one, the Honda, that auction ends in 2 hours' time. And this Triumph, being sold in Italy, that ends in 3 hours' time. Current bid $12,000. I'll do a couple more. I know the Americans love the Urals. Ural Bavarian Cruiser with a sidecar, ending in 4 hours, and that's $9,500. You've got a Buel, of course. I mean, the eclectic mix. I would never have recognized that. Ducati Multistrada Custom from Massachusetts, $4,000. Two more, of course, Honda CB750 from the 1970s. Current bid $600. And a final one, let's do Yamaha Banshee. I would buy that bike if I had the space and the money. 2 days' time it ends. Look at that for a little quad. Almost the year I was born as well. That is immaculate. Brian, that's a lot of relaxing watching, and that could get really dangerous for the wallet, so thanks for that. To Sweden now. Olav, can't find a dream classic bike in your country? Try abroad. This is from Olav, and it's in relation to me discussing the Suzuki DR800 that I went off-roading with and embarrassed myself. Bike that came out in the early 1990s, and I had a look online in the UK. There are almost none available, and I wondered why. So Olav got in touch, and he said this. In Sweden, occasionally vintage Suzuki DR800s are up for sale, in various conditions and at reasonable prices. I would actually go as far as to say they are often up for sale, based on the season, of course. And of course, Sweden, EU, but it would still be possible to import it. So this is what you can get in the UK. They're really, really rare, these bikes. £4,000 for a Suzuki DR800. Remember that and bear it in mind. What if you fancy a little adventure and you fancy trying to get something slightly more keenly priced, even bearing in mind the import duties from the EU? You're probably looking at about 30%. But of course it's the EU, so you can easily ride it back to the UK once you've bought it. This, translating into pounds sterling, 2,200 euros, translates to £1,850. These are way more keenly priced over in Europe, or mainland Europe, than they are in the UK. Some are close to half the price, and the choice is way stronger. This is over in Germany because I found more examples there than Sweden. But take a look at it. 1999 model, which I believe is the final year, 72,000 kilometers, and a full description of the bike, but it's all in German, so you'll either have to do a translation or just trust that the pictures look nice. But £1,850 for the Suzuki DR. That's quite tempting. Olav, thank you for that. On now to Michael, riding an Aprilia Pegaso Strada right now. I bought this bike because it has the same engine as a Yamaha XT660. This is really interesting. This is a one-cylinder 660cc bike with a Rotax engine. This should be robust, and it is fairly simple. I love the bike. Sorry about this. This car alarm, I'm serious, this goes off about 3 times every day. I don't know how the owner hasn't sorted it out. And I'm amazed the battery still lasts. You know what, I can't wait. So, it's a 6-cylinder bike. Now I've lost my flow. It's not a 6-cylinder bike. It's a 1-cylinder bike with a 660cc engine. Michael loves the bike. I love simple bikes, hate modern bikes with TFT displays and all kinds of useless gadgets. I may even go Royal Enfield air-cooled next time. So the bike I'm going to focus on here It's not the Aprilia Pegaso, it's the bike that shares the engine, the bike that donated the engine to the Aprilia. It's the Yamaha XT660. To follow up on this, Raoul left a reply to Michael's post, or to Michael's comment on YouTube, and that says, from Raoul, I just met a guy with a Yamaha XT with 221,000 kilometers on the clock. Started in front of me and sounded great. So if you have any concerns about reliability or robustness for this bike, forget about them. Throw them out the window, because this is going to be as rock solid as anything you will ever find. And check this out, MCN review for this bike, if I haven't sold it to you enough. Yamaha XT660, 2004 to 2017 bike. These are MCN's words, phenomenally reliable. If ever you're considering a bike and you go onto a bike review site and you see as the top highlight, phenomenally reliable, I think that's probably just about the best sales pitch you can get. Yes, we want character, but deep down at its core, we want something that we can trust. Next up, fun commuter or a viable adventure bike as well. Sounds great with a fruity exhaust fitted. 47 horsepower bike, so this is A2 compliant. So anyone getting into biking, take a look at these bikes, and I'll just read out MCN's description. The Yamaha XT660 has a reputation for being a fun commuter. It's almost doing it a disservice. A fun commuter, interesting, that's too heavy to be taken seriously as an off-roader. But when you consider the gargantuan adventure bikes that followed, BMW GS, Triumph Tiger 1200, Ducati Multistrada, the XT looks like a svelte lightweight at 177 kilos. Give some relativity to that. The Multistrada that I had, with a full tank of fuel and without, sorry about that alarm, I don't know if my mic will pick it up, but it's ear-piercingly loud. And without the panniers, you're looking at 260 kilos for the Multistrada. With the panniers, you're probably looking at 270 kilos, and that puts it almost 100 kilos heavier than this bike. So this is a bike that's going to be incredibly fun off-road, but it's too heavy to be taken extremely seriously. But you've got, if we talk in relative terms of bikes in general, 177 kilos is still a really light bike with a 660cc engine that many would say is the sweet spot in terms of engine size, and 47 horsepower. For one, it's enough to have fun pretty much everywhere. It's enough to go touring, and it's not too much where you're going to get yourself out of shape off-roading. I think this is a really, really good looking package, and it's a bike that really has evaded me in these kind of biking discussions. Remember the name. I'm really, really curious about this bike. I may try and borrow one. Yamaha XT660. Moving on. Oh no, not moving on. Let me show you what you can get on the used market. Facebook Marketplace, Yamaha XT660 from 2011, £3,300, 5 previous owners, 17,000 miles on the clock. Great toy, weekend rider or daily commuter. Great nick for a 13-year-old bike. That's a good, solid advert. Really good looking bike. That's tempting. To Roger now. Freddie, I recently switched to a no-frills analog Honda CB 1100 EX for the nostalgia and for the relaxed old school, two-up riding with the wife. And to couple with that, a Honda monkey bike for beating the tourists in summer and nipping for the bread in the morning. We live in France, so I haven't taken leave of my senses for the sake of a Warburton's toasty. Both bikes have rejuvenated, this is important, both of these bikes have rejuvenated a biking palate which had become slightly jaded by riding modes, electronically adjustable suspension, TFT screens, etc. Sometimes less is more. That's from Roger. Roger, let's take a look then. So Honda CB1100s, this is annoying, Roger, because they hold their values really, really well. These were, in the UK certainly, really, really bad sellers. They just didn't sell. They look exquisite, they're beautifully made, they've got, from all accounts, an amazing, strong, big 1100cc engine, but they're gigantically heavy. And usually if people buy a good-looking naked bike, a modern classic, a retro, especially in the UK, it's just, okay, go straight to one of the Triumphs. So these never sold well, but in the used marketplace, they hold a lot of respect. They hold their value extremely well. And, well, it's not a bike you're going to buy if you're looking for the best value choice, but if you're looking for something that's going to hold its value extremely well and is a very, very respectable machine, these are really hard to beat. I found a 2013 one, which is my pick of the bunch. Facebook Marketplace, listed 3 months ago, it was £4,300. It's now £3,900. Private seller, of course. 12 months MOT. It's got lots of special stuff fitted, and it looks like a completely legit seller with 9,000 miles on the clock. They are stunningly, stunningly good looking bikes. And now for the second one. If you're looking to just have a small bike to pick up your baguettes and nip in and out of the heavy French traffic, take a look at the Honda Monkey Bike. A lot of fun. I've ridden the Dax, but never the Monkey Bike. I know how fun these small Hondas are. For feel-good vibes, they're incredibly, incredibly difficult to beat. These are bikes that brand new, in 2019 when they came out, the Honda Monkey Bikes, they were £3,700. If you want one brand new now, they're £4,050. If you want one of the first to come out 5 years ago, 2019 model, the cheapest I've managed to find it anywhere, £2,700. Classically styled Hondas then. If you want some of the strongest residuals in the market, pick a classically, I mean specifically a classically styled Honda. Anyone from the Dax to the Monkey Bike to the CB1100. That is about the surest fire way to hold on to as close to every penny of the value of the bike that you paid for from the start all the way through your ownership experience. They've only lost £1,000 in 5 years, not taking into account inflation. 2.7k for one of those. They look really, really good. I'd love one of those in my garage. And Roger, just the thought of the glorious, glorious French countryside. Oh, those two Hondas out. Baguette under the left arm. Just right arm on the accelerator, whizzing along on the Monkey Bike. That's a fine sight. Roger, thank you. On now to Peak Rider. Freddie, I'd second the chap. Ooh, I like this. I would second the chap from last week with recommending the Kawasaki W800. Such a lovely looking bike. I get compliments everywhere I go. There's just nothing really like it, especially with the bevel driven or the bevel gear driven camshaft, which foxes many people wondering what on earth it is, myself included. As for its capabilities, well, I've just been on a tour from the UK down to Monte Carlo. That's over 2,000 miles in 9 days. Big mile days with temperatures of up to 37 degrees. Long straight roads, motorways and tight switchback roads in the Verdon Mountains. The bike performed faultlessly. Carrying myself, my gear and all of the camping equipment. Quick shout out, I've heard of this, to Nathan Millwood at Dorothy's Speed Shop for organising the trip and giving me the courage and support to take my first big European adventure. On to Paul now, Honda. From Paul, Freddie, I know you always go on about Honda and the reliability of their bikes, but that cannot be said about their parts. I had my Forza 350 scooter, which is my essential travel to work vehicle as I work in a remote place. Well, I had it stolen in November of last year, so I bought another one with the insurance payout. Then, about 4 weeks ago now, I woke up to hearing a strange noise, looked out of my window to find two late teens at 2 a.m. Welcome to the UK, with an angle grinder cutting the locks off my bike. Having scared them off by running downstairs with a golf club in hand, they had already broken the steering lock, resulting in now useless handlebars and lock. set. While getting the insurance estimate and list of parts, I was informed that one part would not be available until January 2025, and no one in the UK has any stock at all. I've even contacted dealers in France with no luck, who have also informed me of a date in late January. So now I have a bike that I need for work, sitting in an independent garage while paying finance on a bike with now monthly bills of $300 a month in travel costs to get to work. Paul, that really is a disgrace, especially for this kind of bike, for any bike. A Forza 350 scooter is a bike that has to be driven, has to be ridden every day. The couriers love it as their mode of transport, the way that they make money. So the fact that you have to wait 6 months for a part before you can get it on the road, well, what do Honda expect you to do? Happily wait around for 6 months without earning a penny, or go out and buy a new bike in the meantime and then see what happens when you eventually get your Honda back 6 months later. That cannot be right. Paul, I feel your pain in some tiny way with the Bonneville, although I didn't need the Bonneville to get to work. Horrible situation. On now to Australia. Gary, here's how to potentially future-proof your semi-complicated pride and joy. From Australia. Freddie, I have just fitted a spare ECU to my BMW R1200 RT 2013 model, which I got from a supplier of second-hand BMW parts for 75 Aussie dollars. So that's about half in UK pounds. So 75 Australian dollars, about 38 pounds sterling. Continuing, the reason they're so cheap, the ECUs that is that BMW agents will not touch second-hand parts. But I was given the information of a guy who managed to clone my original ECU, which had no faults at all, but I just wanted a spare in case the worst may happen. And this was done, the cloning, for 250 Australian dollars, about 130 pounds sterling. He tells me that they have a hard drive in them with the information that he then copies, which takes him about 45 minutes to do. The same job with a new ECU at a dealership, if this work were to be done, is 3,000 Australian dollars. This for a bike with over 100,000 kilometers on the clock, which is probably worth 5,000 Australian dollars. So if anyone in the UK can find a car guy that does it for cars and get him to try the bike ECU just as I did, it makes owning your old bikes far more realistic. Gary, that is really useful advice. Specialists, if you want to keep your classic bikes on the road or your older bikes on the road, this is what I've learned from all of you. Specialists are key. And I've found a UK company, just to give you some relativity here. Very, very easy to find. I just typed in ECU cloning UK. That's all I did. And up comes this, the Dashmaster, sorry, not the, Dashmaster.co.uk, and I'll just read out the description. Engine ECU cloning. Nearly all ECUs and modules require programming before they will work on a vehicle. Using our equipment and knowledge, we have the ability to clone nearly any ECU, making it plug and play without the need for further programming. If you can't find the service you require, fill out our contact form below and we will get back to you. This is really useful. So if you've got a bike you love, you're worried about the ECU, buy the cheapest one you can online, eBay for example, or Facebook Marketplace. Send it off to Dashmaster and they will clone your good ECU that's on your bike at the moment with this eBay one and make them identical. So if your main one ever breaks, great, you've got another one. Just plug and play. Such a useful tip. To Mark now. Freddie, I have been riding for 35 years. I've had 1000cc sports bikes, nakeds, etc. I had a Honda VFR 800 for the last 6 years, then also got a Triumph Speed Triple 1050 RS. It's a great bike, but not very comfortable. 3 months ago, I purchased a new Moto Morini XT660 after trading in the Honda VFR. I absolutely love it, and I've put 3,000 miles on it, small trip to France and lovely rides to Wales. It's 59 horsepower, all day comfortable and so much fun to ride that I never end up taking my Triumph Speed Triple out anymore. It's £6,500, brand new with 3 years warranty. It's by no means fast, but it's just fun to ride and gets more attention than any bike I've ever owned. Kawasaki engine, Brembo brakes, TFT dash, tyre pressure sensors, fully adjustable suspension, spoked wheels, ABS, etc., etc. This is, Mark, intriguing. Came out in 2022, the Moto Morini Escape. It's 230 kilos, so it's a heavy bike. That's not borderline, that is a heavy bike, although I've read some reviews and people say not to worry about the weight because it does hide it well. These are highly regarded online. I've checked a number of different forums, review websites. Owners seem to like them, and the traditional bike journalists, bike reviewers, they seem to rate them quite highly as well. But importantly, the owners rate them highly. Looks-wise, and going off the Moto Morini website, I think it's a very good-looking machine. It's an Italian company that, I believe if my memory serves me correctly, about 10 years ago they were bought by a Chinese company who's in essence saved the brand. I believe they're made in China. Moto Morini Escape, £6,500. Not really a bike I've come across before, but that does look like a good one. Mark, thank you. And now to Bike of the Week. Let's start here. This is in Greece from Big Mike Shooter. Hello from Greece and my Harley Davidson Softail Springer. 20 years ago I bought the Harley and I have never looked back. Greetings. That's a simple message about the love of an old classic Harley. And the reason I'm using this as my bike for the week is that just yesterday when I was coming back from Cornwall for a bank holiday weekend to see family, I stopped off at a petrol station and I saw parked up in front of me as we were filling up with fuel the most beautiful classic, I think 1990s Harley Davidson Heritage. Parked up, lovely couple riding it. And I was chatting to them, he was walking me around the bike and I thought, this bike just stands out so much. It's such a head turner and it's so refreshing to see bikes with so much overt, in-your-face character, timeless styling. If you want something that really stirs the soul, there are very, very few bikes like the Harley Davidson Heritage that can do it this well. It's dream level bikes, depending on if that's your kind of thing. And importantly, the Harley Heritages, they are not the Harleys that specifically hold their value at the very, very top end. They're somewhere around the middle. And I found something that is quite tantalizing. 2009 Harley Davidson Heritage for £7,800. Based in Essex, it's got the panniers, it's got the backrest, it's got a big screen so you can tour all day comfort. The most beautiful timeless design with this huge front mudguard that really makes it, and all of that chrome. And when we talk about all of the financial struggles that Harley Davidson are having at the moment, this for me is Harley Davidson at its best. And the struggles Harley are having at the moment for new bikes in no way mirrors the desire for their classics, bikes on the used market. People still like Harley Davidson, despite the fact that they're struggling from a new bike proposition point of view. I really like that. And after seeing the bike yesterday, parked up, I spent about 30 minutes looking at these online. And if it were my money, and if I had the money right now to buy it, that's the one I'd go for. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for listening and watching this week's episode. Have a brilliant week all. I'll see you all in the next one.